Hello citizens, this is Councillor Gian-Carlo Carra, Ward 9 TV Light. I'm going to give you sort of my breakdown on the Green Line situation because I know there's a lot of angst right now about the line not being delivered in one fell swoop as a 44-kilometer piece of infrastructure uniting the North with the South. And there's a lot of people who are suggesting that if you're not part of Phase 1, you are being severely disadvantaged. I think the word screwed is being thrown around a lot. My position is that that's not the case, and I don't think that's a question of spin or anything else. So let's break down exactly how we came to where we are. The first thing that we needed to do was address on council, and this was something that started in 2010 when myself, the mayor, Councillor Keating, a bunch of Councillor Poopmans, a lot of the new members of council were elected. We endeavored to establish the route ahead, and the route ahead was a 30-year plan for Calgary transit that basically talked about how transit is fundamental to the kind of growth we pursue as a city. The route ahead was produced in about 2 or 3 years, so around 2012, 2013 it came out. And during that time, we were debating what the next LRT line would be. Would it be into the southeast or would it be into the north? And the balancing act was the north has higher ridership right now, and so if you were pursuing a reward people for using transit mode progression kind of approach, you would say that the north was the right way to go. The southeast has a huge booming population and is very poorly served by transit, and so there isn't a lot of transit use. And so then the argument for the southeast was, let's build transit where it's not working and actually capture a huge market segment that we don't have right now, rather than incrementally bump up an area that's already working well. And it was a big debate between the northern and the southern councillors, and here Councillor Carra was in the middle of it with Ward 9 representing the inner segments of both the southeast line and the north line. And my argument was that this shouldn't be a fight and that we should actually work together to build the major piece of bone structure on which the next million Calgarians are going to live and work and play. And the first thing we had to do on the north was take the north alignment, which was supposed to spur off the blue line at the Calgary Zoo station and head north along Nose Creek, and make the argument that actually we should put the transit where the human beings are. If the only use of transit is to take big suburban populations and get them downtown, then the plan that was on the books for the north made a lot of sense. If the idea was to service commuters but also create a city-shaping transit project that would allow the next million Calgarians to live in walkable, complete, compact, great neighborhoods, then we had to think about it differently. And so the southeast line was really far advanced. We had most of the alignment, we had most of an understanding of where it was going to go, and you had a series of neighborhoods along the southeast line that were talking about transit-oriented development and neighborhood change and all of those things. And in the north, we had to have a conversation about actually bringing the train there and where would it go and how would it work. And so the southeast was significantly ahead of the north, and the southeast got funded for the Setway, which was a bus rapid transit project that would reach from the edge of the downtown as far south as we could put it. And while we were doing this work, Councillor Keating and the mayor were doing a tremendous amount of relationship building with the federal government at the time. Councillor Keating shares a number of a big chunk of constituents with former MLA for the area, Minister Jason Kenney. And I was working very closely with Minister of Western Economic Development, Michelle Rempel, surrounding our constituents in the north. And in the north, working with Gail MacLeod, Drew Farrell, myself, Michelle Rempel, and a bunch of MLAs from the PC Calgary caucus, we determined that a north-central urban corridor strategy was the way that we could focus all of our work together. Now, the federal election really put the Conservative government in a dire situation, and in response, they wanted to basically come to Calgary and show that they were working for Calgarians. And so between Jason Kenney and Michelle Rempel, they worked with us to basically figure out what kind of contribution from the federal government would account for 1/3 of the cost of a full green line. And at the time, we didn't really, I think we got the call on a Monday. We did the announcement on a Wednesday. We weren't really sure what it would cost, but we were thinking we could do it cheaper on surface through the downtown and with minimal tunneling, and we said about $4.5 billion. And so they came to the table with 1.5356, and we did a huge announcement, and it was, I think, a really great thing, because we were reinvesting in Calgary, which is an economic engine, which is providing tremendous amount of tax value to the rest of the province and to the rest of the country. So basically what happened was we took the $52 million, which over 10 years was giving us enough money to build the Setway, and we said we're going to contribute our third, expand it to 30 years, and that gave us the $1.53-ish billion. And then we turned our attention to the provincial government, which was also in a state of transition. And what the provincial government has told us, with the Notley government, is that they're very supportive of the idea, but they want to know exactly what they're spending their money on. While we were doing this, we were doing significant planning work surrounding all the station areas in the inner north, all of the station areas in the southeast, and trying to figure out how to build a line that worked for everyone. And I think we thought, and I fully thought, that an above grade option, which is considered sort of an urban design disaster, with the cost savings, we would really be able to build an above grade option that would be cost effective and that would not be an urban design disaster, and we would get significant savings coming, out of the escarpment, sweeping through Eau Claire, up Second, and then turning into the Beltline and figuring out a way to get to the Ramsey-Inglewood alignment that had been established through the Setway. What we discovered was that not so much that tunneling was very expensive, but any other option was extremely expensive too. We were really hard pressed to get the line from up on the escarpment in the north to connect to the line in the southeast through the downtown. The current LRT system moves along 7th Avenue. It was considered a temporary fix, but there are long block faces, and there was an avenue that ran the entire length of the city without significant barriers. And so the 7th Avenue line was a sort of easy way at surface for relatively low cost to get that. We don't have that option coming out of the north, because you've got short blocks and you're doing a collision course to the CP main line, which you have to get over or under. And what we quickly discovered that was that at surface options, elevated options, they destroyed traffic in the downtown. They created an urban design disaster with giant ramps or giant trenches that interrupted many blocks of traffic, and they were very expensive too. And the above grade line was almost as expensive as the underground line. And so the underground line emerged as the clear winner, and we were stuck with this situation where we were going to be spending a lot more money getting through the downtown than we ever thought we would. But we were going to be doing it right, and we had money to do it. The red line and the blue line, 7th Avenue was always considered a temporary fix, and that at some point we would bury it under 8th Avenue. But I don't see us ever having the money or the wherewithal to do that, because the line on 7th Avenue works great. It works fine. And why would we spend all kinds of extra money to do 8th Avenue when there's so many other projects that we have to do? We don't have that quick and dirty, easy way through the downtown, especially because we moved the line we moved the north line off of the old LRT and put it into the neighborhoods that matter. So we were quickly coming to terms with the fact that this project was going to cost significantly more than $4.5 billion, which is what we could reasonably expect when we got the third from the province. And it really came down to a question of, well, what do we build first? and how do we build it in a way that we can quickly expand it and that we take with this historically huge chunk of change that's available to us, we build all the expensive stuff. So the downtown underground connections, the connection to the operation and maintenance facility at Shepherd, which is the clear away winner for where to put it, that became the first chunk of the line. And you know, that's 9 years out. We're looking to deliver that in 2026. And the hope is, and then you can only build so fast. And so I know there's a lot of people in the north who are concerned that they're getting left out. And my answer to them is that, well, in 2027, we're going to keep building. And in 2028, we're going to keep building. And in fact, all of the planning, all of the property acquisition, all of the stuff we have to do in the north is about 3 years behind the stuff we're doing in the southeast, because we had to do all of that moving around. So, you know, I out and out reject the idea that this is prejudicing or supporting one area of the city against the other. This is building the most important, most expensive core of this, and we're going to build it very tightly, sequentially, and go after money and build this thing out as we envisioned. We just can't build it all at once, and we don't have the money to build it all at once. And the province has told us very clearly that, you know, they need to know what the scope of this project is so they can allocate funds. And we're up against major transit projects throughout Canada. And if we push this back 3-4 years, it's not incredibly clear that we're going to have the money that we need on the table. So for those reasons, you know, I would have loved to go further north. I would have loved to go further south. But these things take time and they take money. And we're committed and we have a great vision. And so I was very pleased that this past Monday, not only did council receive the recommendation of administration. Administration was expecting to basically give it to us so we could stew on it until June. But the overwhelming majority of council said, look, we've done a ton of work on this. We've done a ton of engagement. This is the right thing to do, clearly. And if the sooner we move on it, the sooner we'll be able to move on to the next phases. So council not only received for information, but directed administration to move forward on that and to start going to our partners in the province and saying, look, this is what we're doing first. We would like our third. And then we would like to have conversations about financing and work that we need to do to spread out. As a last point, there's a lot of people who are concerned about the financing costs for this. I agree. And you know, we have to make sure that we get the financing for this straight. But it's something that we can do. It's something that we will do. And if you are someone who out and out rejects this project, I want to look you square in the eye and say that the cost of not spending this money far exceeds the cost of spending this money. Because if we do not build the Green Line, we are doomed. We are going to be stuck in traffic and we are going to be backpedaling into an economically questionable situation. This will be an economic engine. This will be an equitable mobility situation. So I am totally pleased that we are taking these bold steps, and I hope you are too. Councillor Gian-Carlo Carra, signing off.